So it's going to be in 5. I believe birds of a feather flock together today. And we all have that in our mind. Why we're here today. There must be a reason. La raison d'être. I do believe that we believe in the new directions of how we can amplify Thainess in terms of history, gender, culture, and a lot more to the new horizons today. Joining us today, a lot of different speakers and contributors join the publications that we have, new directions in Thai studies. But most importantly, we do have a very, very important figures with us, the editor, Dr. Ying-kit. Such a great honor today. My name is Thitithipong Duangkong. I will be your moderator and host for today's event, guiding you through all the topics that we include in these publications via the lens that you probably see on the cover that I myself once wore. Gender lens could be my things. Historical lens could be Ajarn things. Cultural lens could be, Ajarn Suthida lens, maybe, throughout the reading of the, of the narratives there. But I think we do have a lot of questions why we use this cover. So the one who's going to be talking about this at first is going to be our first speaker, the editor, Assistant Professor Dr. Ying-kit Chan. Let me introduce him to you a little bit, who exactly he is. Ying-kit Chan is an assistant professor of Chinese studies at the National University of Singapore, formerly a visiting scholar at the Faculty of Liberal Arts, Thammasat University. He has published several articles on Thai history and cultural studies. So, Dr. Ying-kit Chan, the floor is yours. Ready, set, go.
Great, thank you. Wait, is it on yet? Okay, great. Great, thank you for the introduction, and I have to say thanks to the models of whom, his one. And, today before coming here, I actually went to Chula because it was like a pilgrimage. I was trying to pay homage to the institution that has taught me Thai. And I was bowing to the buildings because I was apologizing for my very poor Thai. So I've been a very bad learner. And this is actually one of the key reasons why I'm very grateful to be here, because for many years, my Thammasat partners and friends have tolerated my poor grasp of the Thai language and allowed me to play such an important role in editing a volume with so many contributors from not only Thammasat but also other Thai universities. And so with this, looking forward, projecting to the future, I shall entitle my presentation as New Directions in Thai Studies 2.0. So hopefully if they can still bear with my poor Thai and still accept me as one of them, I'll be very glad to be either the editor or a mere contributor. Either way, I'm very willing in whatever capacity they feel I should be in to do a new project. Of course, the other title could be Newer Directions in Thai Studies. So it becomes like a trilogy of sorts. We can have a third volume. But in any case, I try not to repeat what I have written with Ajahn in the introduction. So for those who are interested in the introduction or in the whole book, please buy a copy of the book. And I'm looking at you in the eyes, to all potential buyers and readers of the book. So today, truth be told, I'm a historian by training, but I also wrote on many issues and subjects, and I kind of focus on China in my own research. So again, this is the second reason why I'm so grateful to be here, because for me, Thai studies has always been an interest, a very keen interest of mine, but I've only picked up on it later in my training and career. So I'm still learning the ropes of Thai studies. In fact, the closest link I can have to Thai studies would be BL, Boys Love Media, on which I've written some articles. And so the crux of this presentation will focus on history, cultural studies, and gender studies, because these are the three main fields in which I feel most confident. And so what do I actually mean by critical Thai studies? So a major part of the project that we have in this volume is to deconstruct official narratives. In fact, this work has been ongoing since at least the 1990s. And so in our introduction, Ajahn and I, we have been trying to justify why there's still a need for this volume. And so because predominantly in the existing scholarship, we actually have been using critical post-colonial and even decolonial lenses to examine a Thainess produced by power, ideology, and cultural governance. I think that's a moot point that most of us have already known. And so there's always a continuous need for us to move beyond an elite-centered, state-sanctioned framework. And we have moved on to analyze dissent, marginality, and cultural pluralism. So in some of our chapters on culture and religion and even on gender, we have been trying to actually update the scholarship by including plurality in culture and gender. And so with regard to history, we have tried to contribute to rewriting the national narrative. And with regard to cultural studies, we approached it from media, popular culture, and everyday life. And for gender studies, we adopt the perspective of how power has been inflicted and on bodies and sexualities. And so for history, we all know that it has been dominated by royalist and nationalist paradigms. And so according to the conventional paradigm, the Thai nation has been a continuous Buddhist and monarchical civilization. And so one of the key interventions that we are making is to expose how such narratives are constructed. And we are trying to recover alternative histories. And so we have to go all the way to perhaps, Ajahn Thongchai was one of the pioneers in this line of scholarship, of inquiry. And we are also grateful to Ajahn Thongchai for endorsing our book. And so he has talked about how cartography, map making, and diplomacy has created this modern nation of Siam. So Siam was not really an organic or somewhat natural community that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. And so we have the late Ajahn Niti, and we have many other scholars from Thailand who introduced subaltern and subnational perspectives from Isan, from Lang Na, and even from the Deep South. And so for decades, I would say that many scholars and historians have been revisiting the myth of unity, about how certain ethnicities, religions, and regional identities have been disciplined. So this is adopting a Foucauldian lens under a centralizing state that started to form, especially during the reigns of King Rama V and the Sixth. And so Ajahn Thongchai has produced a new book, Moments of Silence. So this has adopted a historical perspective to the way memory and forgetting are actually political acts. And there was this politics of silence and the unforgetting as well. And so with regard to cultural studies, one of the key themes was how power and ideology have been reproduced and contested in popular culture. And we identify a trend, which is new media and digital activism have opened spaces for critique and parody, especially among the youth. And this was especially obvious or evident during the COVID period, and as well as recent years of political developments. And we see that music, television, dramas, lacon, and the online performances of various types have revealed a popular politics of dissent and irony. So we can think about the Milk Tea Alliance that kind of originated in the transnational consumption of boys' love media. And it's something that I'm more confident in, actually. And so there were bold works of film and literature that challenged dominant constructions of Thainess. So we can think about Abhichapong's movies and various kinds of literature. In fact, Ajahn Sutida, who is here with us, she has written an excellent article on how Animal Farm has been interpreted and received in Thailand. And so there's this alignment of these works with the critique of hierarchy and moral virtue And one of the key sources of inspiration for us was actually Disturbing Conventions by Ajahn Rachel Harrison. So that actually provided the impetus for us to include more chapters on film and literature. And of course, we have to talk about religion, given the prevailing Buddhist influence and impact that Thailand still wields within the region or within the domestic realm. And so we talk about how popular religion or religions have engaged with capitalism and modernity. And so there was this bottom-up approach whereby we re-examine the agency of ordinary Thais in shaping cultural economies. And so, again, one of the key supporters of our project is Ajahn Peter Jackson. And he has a new book on capitalism, magic Thailand, on amulets, and how these ordinary Thais were reshaping religious landscape in Thailand. And so, in a nutshell, culture becomes not a repository of heritage, but a dynamic domain where meanings of identity and modernity are negotiated. And so this is the flag of the Milk Tea Alliance. And so for gender studies, we have especially Amy Donald's chapter on the Museum Siam. And we are trying to talk about how religion, state power, and market forces regulate gender expression and sexual morality. And so, I mean, we have very established scholarship on this topic. And so we have already talked about how same-sex desire in Thailand kind of defines Western taxonomy of sexualities, as well as assumptions of identity politics. And so, again, we are trying to further the effort of situating this study within local cultural logics and economic realities. And yeah, we have a new scholarship that we have not included as well about how nationalism actually constructs idealized femininities. So, and this will lead to the field that I'm working on in a way, on boys' love and LGBT studies. And so we are also talking about politics and activism. We are talking about how queer activism, and especially in the 2020 youth protests, have demonstrated how bodies become political and how bodies were used or have been deployed to confront censorship and moral discipline. And so some of the possible trajectories from at least the three fields briefly described would be a rejection of exceptionalist narratives, especially those that continue to portray Thailand as a uniquely harmonious and homogeneous nation. And we always have to, again, continue the effort to situate Thai experiences in global circuits of migration, neoliberalism, and digital capitalism. In fact, digital capitalism is very relevant to BL studies. We talked about this transnational network of BL production, whereby Thailand is only the starting point, and whether it becomes popular and whether it spreads regionally and globally kind of depends on transnational actors outside Thailand. So that's this economy of BL going on with digital capitalism. And again, we have to continue to help decolonize Thai knowledge. So in our introduction, as per the suggestions of some of our reviewers, we actually have a whole section on how we have remained subsumed under Pax Americana. So there's always this need to do so. And many of our contributors, to be sure, we have been educated outside Thailand, many of whom are in Europe or the UK or the US. And yet there's this reflective, contemplative stance whereby we are trying to adopt to re-examine our premises and positionality. And so who actually produces Thai studies, in what language, and for whose benefit? That's actually something that we have to remain very humble and contemplative about. And of course, we always have to connect academic research with alternative development, with community rights, environmental justice, youth activism, for it to be relevant. You know, sometimes when we are teaching general education courses, it's very hard as a humanities scholar or historian to convince students from non-humanities, non-social studies faculties or schools or departments that history is kind of important. Humanities as a whole is important. You think not of history, but you should think with history. And you'll be looking at me nodding, but I don't really know whether they understood what I said. But in any case, there's a need for us to actually try to connect whatever we are researching with contemporary events for relevance and continued importance. And so, to conclude, for me at least, critical Thai studies is less about Thailand itself than about how Thailand is known. So it's very epistemological. We have to attend to the epistemic conditions of that kind of knowledge and how institutions produce so-called certain truths and silence others. And so critical Thai studies kind of envisions Thai studies as a practice of critical inquiry rather than extension of national ideology. I honestly think that we have tried to break or to critique existing paradigms, but in the event that you think as a reader or an observer that we have failed to do so, but at least we are not backtracking. The effort is not regressive. We've been trying to continue and sustain the effort towards making academic breakthroughs in Thai studies. And with that, I have come to the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chan. Well, that's the opening presentation for our book launch seminar. Again, everybody's welcome and joining us today. We do have the co-editor, who is Dr. Priti Hongsaton, joining us live via the Zoom platform. If Dr. Priti is ready, please stand by. Meanwhile, I'll be presenting his profile, introducing him to y'all, who's joining us today. Dr. Priti Hongsaton is a research fellow at Linnaeus University. Center Research looks at concurrence in colonial and post-colonial studies, Sweden. His research looked at the history of empires and imperialisms in mainland Southeast Asia from the middle of the 19th century to the present time. Priti's interest in historical and theoretical aspects of Theravada Buddhism in Thailand, Myanmar, and Sri Lanka results in a co-edited volume. And Priti's work in this particular publications will bring us to the new editorial perspectives as well. Maybe he can elaborate more details via the Zooms that we have with him. Hello, Priti. Please, the floor is yours.
สวัสดีครับพี่ธง
สวัสดีครับ
Hello everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep, okay. Hello everybody. Hello Kit. It's very great that you are there, and I regret not being able to join everybody in this event, and congratulations to all. From on a train, you probably will be seeing something moving here, so I will explain in a bit because my joining in this launch is quite unlikely because it's in the middle of my commuting and other things, which unfortunately would make my presentation rather short, which might be a good thing, perhaps. I have some points I would like to, apart from congratulating to all of you in this publication of the collection. I want to just say a few things, how unlikely this project is coming to being. I mean, the project is unlikely in several ways. Well, I mean, first, it's unlikely that I can participate, which I can now, even though I'm on the train in 180 kilometers per hour at the moment, but thanks to the Wi-Fi on the train. But also, it's unlikely because this project is an organic result of an organic growth of the collaborative behavior, in a sense. Many people, I mean, many of us who were here from the beginning of the first workshop that we had until the very finish of the project. Many papers withdrew from the collective for several reasons and so on. And of course, like all of the collective effort like this, you ended up having to pick some, and you have to unpick some for several reasons and so on, which of course difficult choice, difficult situation, and so on. And one would like to publish everything, but of course that is unlikely in today's publishing industry. So it comes to this unlikeliness, the second unlikeliness, because it's unlikely because even the name of the collection that you Pitong mentioned is actually has been changed. It was changed. Kid, you know this when we'll be doing the proposal. I mean, I'm a latecomer in this. I mean, it's Ajahn Kompanat and Ajahn Ying-kit, who's actually the two suspects in this initiative. It is great initiative, and then I came later into this, and we could see how this the project evolved. The name has changed, something beyond me and Ajahn Ying-kit's authority to determine, of course, and there are several reasons for this, which we won't go into that. It is also unlikely also because of the as many of us would understand that the choice of publishing, especially this commercial publishing house, an edited volume that is based particularly on something like skill motivated under area studies like this. It is very unlikely that they will publish something like this. We remember the workshop with Ajahn Thongchai, and he said that it's intriguing how they would accept a proposal, but they did, and so on, and we managed to finalize the manuscript. It is also unlikely among us, of course, scholars now in this, and Ajahn Ying-kit has written extensively on this. How today's academic world, we have to publish in something that counts very high in rankings. You have to publish in something that counts. And this something that counts is very problematic, of course, from the critical point of view. But we ended up contributing anyway to something that doesn't really count that much. I mean, if you use that criteria of the those type of this edited volume articles in edited volume, rather than some of the articles published in this volume can be easily published in a top tier journal, international respected journal, and so on, which would of course gain very high ranks for the others and so on. But again, as I said, it's this organic nature of this collective that means that this type of thing could happen, which is very unlikely, and it's rare. So just quickly before I move on to give the baton to others, it's that in a way it is I suppose Ajahn Kompanat just mentioned to me in our conversation before that it is one in a way also like a งานบุญ or อาจจะเป็นงานลงแขก or something along that line, which is of course it's วุ่นวาย
Part of making process. Wow, okay. Long cag probably is the term.
Yeah, I mean
All right.
the
We got you, pretty.
It's reflected in the network of each member of the collection, and all of this could be done, of course, because of all of the efforts contributed by each of every member, and of course beyond this. And I have to emphasize this also, is that it would not have been possible without the help from our postgrad students, who were actually some of the contributors are actually our previous postgrad students. So in a way, this is not just about individual scholars writing something and contributing, but this is also a manifestation of an institutional attempt. Whether it is a success or a failure is something that we cannot evaluate ourselves, and we can only try harder in order to make this to continue with this. And I thank you again for the opportunity for me to say something. And I see myself very large on the screen, so I suppose I would have to stop now so that I will not create a visual toxic for you in the room. And I
All right,
wish you
pretty. Now that we have you
a great
on the
day.
grid, I just would like you to continue a little bit more, because probably I can allow the audience to ask certain questions towards the editorial work that we have before you leave. All right, so please, dearest participant, if you have any questions regarding this, you can ask the questions right away before Preeti departs.
No, I will stay on until maybe another half an hour or something. Don't worry.
Oh, all right, great. All right. So if you have any questions, or maybe we can leave it for the online audience. Maybe you can type your questions in the comment section below, and then I can read the questions out loud for the editors, the two of them.
And the questions can come in Thai.
And the questions can be in Thai. I'll do the translations right away. Any questions at all? Maybe I have one. a lot of readers, a lot of people who's interested in these particular publications ask me, or probably ask you as well, why it's going to be this cover, because it's one of the most talked about things of these new publications.
Yeah, I mean, just to keep it conversational, really, this is the truth. Many people congratulated me on this project, on the publication of the volume, and then they came to ask me either via text or in person what the cover actually means, and I say ไม่รู้อะ
Well, that
ก็ไม่
kind
เข้า
of
ใจอะ
that kind of answer is very, very
Very Thai.
relevant, and for the time being, now that you talk about the media cultures, it's part of the meme sentence
Oh, it's a meme.
spoken by Maria Puletlab, one of Miss Thailand Universe, when people ask her about social movement, and she said กูไม่รู้ว่ะ You use that meme sentence now.
Yeah,
So
but-
you don't know?
Yeah, I don't. And people thought that I was just trying to be unnecessarily funny when I say ไม่รู้ because I really ไม่รู้อะ because actually it's อาจารย์แนน who chose the cover.
It's Ajahn Gornpanat idea is the one who's behind the scenes. Well, I could deliver something that could be part of the answers actually. So I think one word that could describe this really, very, very well is the word believe. I had a conversation with my old friend, Dr. Gornpanat, and she said she came up with this idea in a time that nobody's believed that it's possible. Sorry, I'm going very emotional again. But the cover like this seemed to be not very mainstream. It's not the one that used to be, at the international publications. People might be very skeptical about it. People might ask, why is that? I can tell. As part of the cover by myself, I wore the glasses, and I have that thirst to know about Thailand. I wore the lens, literally the lens, and looked towards certain directions that can probably give me the new horizons, as mentioned earlier, about what I've been studying, genders. I've been studying about beauty pageants for so long, now very into gastronomy. I've been very curious about those transnational phenomena. Talking about gender, Thailand has that kind of gender dynamics. Both of my fellow cover girl and boys, Mintra and Chape, they're part of the body right now, the contemporary body of Thailand. They're trans. They're part of the LGBTQ communities. I think the cover tells a lot of things, allow you to interpret what contemporary Thailand is all about. Together with that look that the cover boys and girls has, we harbor hope on you. We harbor hope on Ajahn Gornpanat, Dr. Yang-kit, and Dr. Pridi, and all the contributors that will be part of the event today. As part of a student myself, academic, I think hope is very much part of the new directions. Without Ajahn Gornpanat's initiative ideas, without Ajahn Yang-kit's chance, contributions, and transnational contribution editorial work of Ajahn Pridi, it's not possible. Those possible trajectories would be just in the form of a dream. But now dreams becomes reality. So thank you, all of you. As part of Cover Boy, that's my word. All right, shall we continue?
Yeah, yes. Just to add that it's really beautiful aesthetically. And,
Rhetorical.
No, but people keep thinking it's a tabletop book or a fashion
I've been
magazine.
asked a lot,
so,
yes.
Yeah, I've been asked a lot too.
All right, as well. We continued looking towards these fields, developments of Thailand, economically speaking, politically speaking, historically speaking, culturally speaking, with the critiques, Western thinking. With our contributors today, the first one that I have with us today, Dr. Tate from Mahidol University. He will be speaking about his article in the publication. Let me introduce him to y'all, to all of you here in a nutshell. Dr. Tate Buntanond received his PhD from Waseda University in 2021, and he's now a lecturer in history at Mahidol University. His research focuses on military history and historical narratives, particularly the modern Thai military. He emphasizes the relationship between the monarchy and armed forces, as well as the stories of forgotten soldiers in war. His current work examines the relationship between Thailand and the United States in reforming the Thai armed forces during the Cold War. He is the author of the books, The King Soldiers and The Making of Faith and Loyalty, and Life of Prisoners of War, Blood and Tears in the Concentration Camp After the Greater East Asia War. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Ajahn Gornpanat, Ajahn Pridi, and Ying-kit that for inviting me to join in this project. It's actually a very fascinating project, and it gives me a very good opportunity that I can relate myself with many academics, because of actually working at the Mahidol University very far from the social science and humanity works, but it focuses on the medicine and science. So that it's a good opportunity for me that to join of you in this work this project. And yes, my work is something that one of the controversial issues that when talking about rethinking national defense during the reign of King Chulalongkorn, that many of works previously that we talking about that actually the Thai armed force was modernized because of the king and the Thai elite want to use them to prevent the internal conflict. Actually, there's I just turned to have a new idea when I'm doing my PhD research, and I found some document in the National Archive that tell me another way, totally different way from the work that tell me previously. It might have been asked that how about it new direction when we talk about that the new concept about the defending nation during the King Chulalongkorn, because of if you are talking about the new concept, it should be that the king used the armed force because of he want to secure his internal power, and the external power is something that we cannot fight with them. But actually, today we will start with the work previously that talking about the modern armed force of Thailand was used for preventing the internal conflict. Yes, and honestly, we have to talk, to have a discussion with the pioneer work, the very prominent work in Thai study. First of all, that we have to talk with Noel Battier, that his work is milestone when you do something about military history in Thailand. You have to read his book, and it's just like the Bible for the military history in Thailand. In the work of Battier, he provide document about the modernizing the armed force was part of Chulalongkorn centralization. What that mean is for the internal conflict, not the external conflict. And Chulalongkorn decided to reform the armed force because of he was determined to annihilate the autonomous military organization that belonged to the prince and noble, which was a threat of his stability. So that regarding the Nobel Battery, his work indicates clearly that the armed force was modernized because of the monarchs at the time want to use it to prevent the internal conflict. And it had many work that cite the work of Battier. The first one is Paul Chambers. Sorry, I'm misspelling his name. It's Chambers, Chamber. In the night of the regime, Thailand military and police then and now. Chambers also emphasized the agreement of Paul Chambers of Battier that the modern armed forces were expected to suppress any king inner antagonistics rather than the superpowers. And I agree that thing is one of the very important work that have been used in many times if you talking about the modernization of the Thai armed force during King Chulalongkorn as a milestone of the reason why they have to modernize is the work of Chris Baker and Pasuk Pongpaichit in a history of Thailand. The work of Chris Baker and Pasuk also mentioned about that the real need for modernizing the armed force was not against the colonialists, but that the armed force were expected to maintain the influence and power of the Siamese king over all Thai people. And in the same way that Whitehead also mentioned about that Chulalongkorn modernized the armed force because of he wanted to strengthen his inner political and military power. And the most famous work that have been used again and again when talking about Thai military, why we have to modernize the military, the armed force, is the work of Benedict Anderson in the studying about the Thai state, throwing back to the Thai study. Anderson provide an agreement that the Thai monarch never expect that its armed force were able to battle any superpowers, and that modernizing the armed force was an internal policy rather than a foreign policy. Aside from that, from this book, that this academic work that talking about why we have to modernize the armed force. Is that my question is, if you want to protect the throne or resist the inner enemy which have a less power than you, why you have to invest a lot of money for the armed force? If you want just to suppress the prince from Nan or from Prayer or the prince in the sum of prince in Bangkok, why Thailand invest a lot of money? Why we have to send a lot of prince and normal people, ordinary people to study abroad a lot? Why we have to bought a lot of weaponry? If you want to just suppress the internal enemy. So it also have the work, some of them mention about that actually that the modernization of the Thai armed force might be used for preventing or protecting the nation from the superpower. The very recent works actually that is very recent one is the work of Gregory Raymond in Thai military power and cultural strategic accommodation. In his work, he mentioned about that although Chulalongkorn was suggested by a group of new generation diplomats that military reform could not be a bulwark against the menace of the superpower, the king, however, continually delivered a policy to develop the armed force. He gave the reason that the armed force were necessary both in wartime and peacetime. This is one of the work, a very rare work that mentioned about that actually the king might have an idea about to use the armed force for preventing the nation from the invasion of the return of the superpower. But the work of Raymond cannot provide the evidence that how the nation could defend itself from the invasion of the superpower. And this is the start of my work that I want to show you how we can defend the nation from modernizing the modern armed force. So my argument starts that all of this work except the Raymond, they interpret, they did not show any concrete document or source to provide that the king actually had an intention about to use the armed force for protecting the nation from of suppressing the nation, to suppressing someone which the inner enemy. But they interpret the situation from the Palgrave incident that the Siamese armed force totally lost by French armed force. Just the 3 or 4 ships could totally triumph the Thai armed force. And from this, I think they interpret that Thailand not ready, Siam armed force at that time, not ready to fight with the superpower anyone. So that they modernize the armed force because of the inner enemy might be the primary object, and the work of many scholars assume that Siam would be invaded by the main force of the homeland. They show that they try to present that Siam might be invaded from the superpower, but their assumption is they invade by using the main force from the homeland, but actually not. And we show that the Siamese elite expects that they might be invaded, but only one country have a chance or have an idea to invade us. Not everyone want invade Siam at the time, and the superpower may be betraying France or any nation in the world. However, the fact is, the only one threat of Siam at the time is France. For in the from the perspective of the Siamese elite, and not only that, even the Japanese diplomat in Germany, they also had an idea that only France want to invade Siam because of they did not satisfy about anything that they got from the Palgrave incident, and they betrayed for now. They absolutely satisfied from their situation, and they did not have any idea about to invade Siam anymore. So Siamese elite anticipated that if France had to invade Siam, it would use its soldiers with station in French Indochina rather than the mainland force from France. So the force would be, most of them were indigenous soldier rather than the French soldier. So it should be the Vietnamese soldier, Laotian soldier, or Cambodian soldier than the French soldier. So hereby the Siamese elite, they expect that their modern armed force was able to protect the nation in that way. And they also had a concrete plan. Actually, I found that in the National Archive of Thailand, and it's really interesting document. It's just like about 200 or 300 pages talking about how we defend the nation from the invasion of France, written in English. Well, the first time that I found that, I'm really surprised why you write it in English, not in Thai. Why it should have to be written in English. But one thing that I just realized that because of they're afraid about that it might be leaked in the circle of Thai people rather than the French or the foreigner. So that if you written, if it was written in Thai, it's really dangerous for it would be leaked because of the document was written by one of the son of Chulalongkorn, Prince Nakhon He graduated from Denmark, the Danish Military Academy, and he wrote it in English. And the document at the time, when you have to pass the document to the king, you have to pass many people. The honorary, like the secretary of the king, the man who have to bring the document to the king. So if you wrote it in Thai and someone read that, at that time not much everyone can read English, right? So if you read in Thai and it was leaked, it would be a very big trouble for that. And yes, it's written in English, and it's a lot of, it has 300 pages, 200 or 300 pages to describe about how we can defend the nation if the French armed force decide to invade us. And I will tell the detail later. And the Siamese elite at the time believed that Siam should imitate the military modernization of Japan. They found that Japan would be a really good role model, especially after the Russo-Japanese War, after Japan showed the world that they could triumph the Russia completely. And it started the idea of the Siamese elite that why we did not send the soldiers to study in Japan. And we might be a good knowledge from that. And Japan seemingly want to expand its influence over Siam. Why? Because of at the time Japan also want they also want to a more land, a more population, and they also want to expand their investment in some country with independence. And Southeast Asia at the time is only Siam that was an independent state. So is it a territory that Japan could freely invest in this country? And in the same time, Thailand also found an opportunity that if we could tie the relationship with Japan, we might be helped by Japan if we have been invaded or was invaded by some superpower, because of the Japan might be afraid about their interest in the Siamese nation. And Siam turned itself to rely on the military support of Japan by sending many cadets and soldiers to study military in Japan, actually. So talking about the plan is so interestingly. In 1903, Dr. Prawat, the army commander-in-chief at the time, devised a military strategy to defend the country against a French invasion to the king. And the defense minister anticipated that France would send its force to Patabong and Siem Reap firstly. And in case France were to conquer Patabong and Siem Reap, Siam would lose surely. So, and it's not just these two provinces, but also entire Mekong Valley and Korat also. Hereby, we have to defend Korat firstly. So the Korat and it had the force, and interesting thing is the Korat and Pachimburi would be vanguard by Prince Boripat, was a commander of Korat fort. In the plan, he sent a very prominent one to defend Korat, Boripat. And in Pachimburi fort, he would send Phaya Siharat Deshochai, who as a commander of Pachimburi fort. He sent a two prominent commander, very loyal commander, very loyalist commander to defend this province, because they know that we have, if we have to defend the nation, we have to fight with the French armed force. Korat and Pachimburi was totally important. We have to defend that, and if we cannot defend Korat and Pachimburi, we will totally lost. And there's defend these two cities what a key to defend a whole nation. The defense ministry estimated that there were 30,000 French Indochinese soldiers in the standing army, of whom 5,000 were Frenchmen and remainder was a local primary Vietnamese. So it could raise the troop for the French Indochina to 50,000 men, including gendarmerie. What does it mean is Siam must have 100,000 soldiers if they want to protect the nation. So in the document, they describe how company that we should have: 80 company of infantry, 20 squadron of cavalry, 20 battery of artillery, 10 company of engineer, 10 company of transport troop that we should have. The soldier, infantry, cavalry, and artillery from Ratchaburi would be sent to help Pachimburi and Korat army. This is very significant. Why should be Ratchaburi? Because they expect that British armed force or British government would not invade at the time. If the French invade Siam, the British would not intervene or invade Siam. So we can bring all of the soldiers which stationed in Ratchaburi with the border between Thailand and Burma that at the time is occupied by Britain to the northeastern of Thailand. That is very clear plan that to show that okay, the British is not our enemy surely. So we can bring all of the force to fight with the French armed force. And by using the majority of the soldiers from Ratchaburi, it was clear that the commander of the Siamese army believed that Britain would not pose a threat of Thailand to Siam. And they were expect that the Siamese armed force could resist the invasion of France for a while. It's not a long war. It's a very short war. And the French military must rely on the loyalty of the Vietnamese soldier. So Gerard had an opinion that there appear to be discontent among the Vietnam soldiers who serve in the French Indochina military. So the plan of Siam is kill the Vietnamese soldiers as much as possible and make them dissatisfied about why we have to die for the French nation. And this is a plan. Make the French Indochina be a trouble inside. And this is why I say that it's not like a war that we expect. It's a war that we can protect a nation in a short, but it had a plan, it had an idea, and it's very logically planned. And if they could kill the colonial soldier like the Vietnamese and Laotian as much as they could, this soldier would turn against the French government. And forcing, it might force French government to the diplomatic talks. In the end, Siam did not think that they could triumph French armed force. They just try to force the French government to the table to talk. So that's why it's so concrete plan. They know themselves that they could not totally triumph the French Indochina force, but we can force them to talk on the table to negotiate. And according to Dr.Pr, this war is, if happen, it should use the money 1.9 million baht at the time were required, and it was almost 50% of the army in 1904 budget. So what happened after they wrote this plan? It had the lessening of the military budget after that, particularly in the army. And they also do another thing is they decide to enact the Conscript Act in 1905. So the Conscription Act that we think about, oh, it's about to decrease the power of the prince and noble. It's not all about that. It's about it had the main plan. It had the defensive nation plan, and this plan related to the number of the people, the force that they have to have in the armed force, both in standing army and reserve army. And the one thing that the Thai-Elite changed the idea is they turn to ask the help from Japan also, because of during the Palgrave incident, they know that they realize that only superpower from the European cannot help them, and it's very concrete that they would not intervene, they would not help Siam from the problem between Siam and the superpower nation. So the Siam decided that, okay, we turn to find another superpower could balance the power between among of them. And this is the budget that license from 1902 that already the army 1.7 1903 2.3 after the plan in 1903. The budget of Siam in the army is double of increase. They have to follow the plan to increase the budget for the army. Actually, I did not show about the Siam Navy budget, but in the number, actually after the Palgrave incident, the budget of Navy is higher than the army. But after this plan was written, the budget of the army became more higher than the budget of the Navy. So it's stick with the plan. And they also turn to Japan. Siam looked for another option to improve the armed force, so they know that they could not rely totally on the European nation. Actually, that the idea of sending the soldier to study in Japan started in 1895 when Minister of Japan in Berlin informed Siam about sending the soldier to study in Japan, and they invite Siam to send the Siamese cadet to study military in Japan rather than Europe, because of the cadet were able to attend any class that they desire. Because of we have to know about Siam sent a lot of cadets to study in Europe, and most of them is the son of Chulalongkorn. But indeed, during their study in Europe, they could not attend in any class that they want. In many classes, even like the Prince except Chakrapong that he studied in Russia, and Russia allowed them to study any class that he want. But for the cadet or the prince who was sent to study in Britain or in Brazil also, especially in Britain, in some class we have a classified information about the national security. They have been thrown out from the class. Even Prince Chumpon, Chumpon, actually he had a chance to attend to engage the war with the British Navy, but actually during his studying in Britain, he could not attend any class. Some class he have to withdraw himself from that because of it classify information in the class. But in case of Japan, it had the negotiation between Siam and Japan that Japan would allow Siamese cadet to study in any class that they want. And this is I quote from the document about the invitation of the Japanese minister in Berlin to invite them to study in Japan. And actually that the first time that Siamese did not had any desire to send the soldier until 1905 after the Russo-Japanese War. They just realized, okay, Japan could triumph Russia, so for now we can send the soldier to study in Japan. And yes, administration appeared to have recognized the Japanese military capability. And actually, the nation which afraid about the concept, the idea about sending the soldiers to study in Japan is France. They were afraid about that. If they send the Prime Minister an official asked the Japanese minister in Tokyo about the number of the Thai cadets in Japan in 1905, they suspect that Japan and Thai would be cooperate in something. And at the time in 1905, actually did not have any Siamese cadets attend in the Japanese academy, military academy. However, a year after that, 1906, it was the first time that Siamese government decided to send the soldier, the cadet, to study in Japan, both in the army and navy, and actually that the army willingly to accept all of the Siamese cadets, but for the navy they did not like that choice because of when you have to invade a nation, you need to use the navy, not the army. So the navy is so important for that. So you cannot let someone study about the classified information. So that it had a lot of negotiation between Siam and the Japan about allowing the Siamese cadet midshipmen study in Japanese military navy, and it had a negotiation about that Siam would buy the Japanese ship and hire the Japanese soldier to serve in the Siamese navy to exchange about to allow the Siamese cadet to study in Japanese Naval Academy. And in the end, it had the soldiers study in Japanese military academy in the army, but for the navy, finally they did not send them because of the Japanese navy did not allow them to study. And it had one very important policy, as we have to have a war with the superpower from European nation, and it's following regarding the Palgrave incident that they realized that the European nation would not provide any help for us. We have to rely by themselves about the equipment, and the most important is the armament. Siam decided to build a bullet factory by themselves because of they talk about that we have to rely on themselves when having a war, and if we have a war with one of superpower nation, they did not surely provide a weapon to us. So if the war began, we need to produce a bullet by themselves. And the nation that helped Siam to build a bullet factory is Japan. The Japanese government designed to sell the bullet producing machine to Thailand, but to Siam, and in the same time Siam also contract the US, the United States, for about the provide the electronic machine for the factory. But you can see that regarding all of I present that they have an actual plan, they have a concrete plan to defend the nation, and it's just not just like to the imagination, and it's not only interpreted from the incident without the source but it had a source, the primary source, showing clearly that the Siamese elite had an intention to defend the nation, and the armed force were modernized because of they expect that this armed force might be defend the nation from the invasion of the European nation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Tep. And that's part of Rethinking National Defense during the reign of King Chulalongkorn, presented by Assistant Professor Dr. Tep Buntanon. Thank you very much. I'll leave the Q&A sessions at the end of the final presentations. Continuing with this presentations today, we have the second contributor. Joining us today is Assistant Professor Dr. Panarat. Oh, okay. Oh, no, okay, I'm sorry. My apologies. Dr. Panarat Anamwatana, who will be presenting her latest articles in these particular publications in the topic of Thailand and Japan's comparative centralization and economic development, World War I. If you're ready, please. You have 15 to 20 minutes.
So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you to our editors, Ajahn Ying-kit, Ajahn Brady, and also thank you to Ajahn Gon Panat for spearheading the project and for organizing, getting all of us together. This would not have been possible without Ajahn Gon Panat. I am here on behalf of my co-author as well, Ajahn Jessica, who is associated with the economics faculty at Chulalongkorn University. And so this is the title of our chapter, right? So Thailand and Japan's comparative centralization and economic development from 1850s to World War I. So the main arguments basically of this paper is that when people think about countries in Asia that have not been colonized, the only two names that come up are Siam, or Thailand, and Japan. And because of this seeming similarity, the two countries have been compared a lot by many scholars, including in history and in economics and economic history. And the main point of this paper is that we're going to question, right, the assumption that these two countries are similar just because they're the only two countries in Asia that have not been colonized. And we also would argue that because of their differences in the circumstances of their encounter with the West, they centralized power and created a modern nation in slightly different ways, and these political, circumstances had very clear economic consequences, and this sort of explains why. Right now we see a big economic difference between Japan and Thailand, and we're saying that actually this has historical roots. And so, some historical context, pre-Western contact, right? There are some clear similarities between Japan and Siam at the time. So the governments monopolized and restricted foreign trade, and it was relatively of small importance, especially to the people, the majority of the people living in both countries. And, the similarity sort of continues, right? Because within a couple of years of each other, the arrival of the Americans and the British into Siam and into Japan led to the signing of these unequal treaties. And the effects of the unequal treaties are also very similar, in which they broke the monopoly that the state had on international trade and forced open, basically integrated both Siam and Japan into the world economic system, and also imposed a lot of unfair disadvantages, right, on both nations. An example that we've put up here is they fixed import duties, which is very important, has economic connotations, and extraterritoriality. And yet another similarity that's probably sort of explains why scholars like to compare the two is the Meiji Restoration and the ascension of King Chulalongkorn to the throne happened very close to each other, and both are known to be events that modernized both nations, right? Both are known to be periods of reform. And so because of all of these similarities, then people like to look at the two countries then and look at the two countries now and look at their economic performances and then say, oh, actually, what happened here, where we see even starting in the late 1800s, we see Japan's economy really taking off, but Thailand struggled, right, to improve and to grow their GDP per capita. And for this reason, which is one of the things that I talk to my co-author a lot, is that a lot of economic historians like to say, oh, Thailand failed, right? You were given sort of the similar hand to Japan, and Japan was able to do this, but you were unable to, and therefore, the Thai elites failed the country. And I guess this sort of makes sense that I went after Ajahn, because there's sort of this connection with Japan and Thailand, looking to Japan as sort of an inspiration to modernizing and I guess progressing to catch up with the West as well. And so here we sort of review the literature on what other people have said were explanations for this divergence in sort of economic outcomes. And so there are a lot of explanations. Some say resource endowments can explain this difference. Japan was very land scarce and labor abundant, and this tends to drive innovation because they have to figure out what to do with this limited amount of land. There are records of Japanese farmers using fertilizer way back because they have to make the most right out of their limited amount of land. Sort of similar classical explanations include, Japan had much higher human capital, so the literacy rates in Japan in the 19th century was far higher than the literacy rates in Siam, and they also had longer life expectancy and therefore, better human capital for the Japanese government to work with. Some people talk about the differences in normative behavior, which is just academic talk for culture, right? They say that there's something about Japanese culture that encourages conformity, and therefore it makes it easier for them to do business with one another. And it's my least favorite explanation out of all of these things. I find this to be very reductive, and also a lot of economic historians question this because there's a lot of endogeneity between culture and economic systems, right? The way that you produce and the way that you consume things, the way that the economy is run also affects a society's culture, and so you can't really separate these two and say, oh, actually it's because of culture that your economy is poor, right? So it's a very it's my least favorite sort of school of thought in this. And so a lot of people say that Japan is a success story if you are sort of someone who believes in sort of classical economics. Then Japan is sort of this poster child for, it was able to modernize, it was able to compete, and became good state, had good institutions, and modernized public education, military, the banking system, and so forth. Whereas Siam was stuck in sort of our similar agricultural economy, right? Punk. And there was very little sort of financial development. There's a lack of a middle class for a long time, and it's, we're still struggling to escape the middle income trap. And so Ajahn Gonpanat said, oh yeah, we have to emphasize, right, how this is our paper is new, right? And so we're saying that this is a new direction. So we're borrowing a theory that we think really applies here. And there's been a growing literature on sort of the link between external threat, centralization of power, and economic growth. And so I think it's clearly, like, it's pretty straightforward, right? If there's an external threat, government centralize power, and in doing so increases the capacity and the fiscal capacity of the state. And so it is able to sort of lead in economic developments. And we argue that because of this difference in how Japan and Thailand centralized power and responded to the threat of imperialism, it led to the different sort of trajectories of Thailand and Japan's economic development. And so we also point out sort of like the basic facts, right? That there are some clear differences. One of the, I guess, more important things is that the import duties that were fixed for Japan they were fixed at a higher rate than that of Siam, so 5% to 3%. And these unequal treaties, Japan was able to renegotiate them before Siam, like quite a long time, a couple of decades. And so this had a lot of fiscal capacity implications, right, for the fiscal capacities of each state. Geography also played quite an important role. So Japan had the had the good luck to be an archipelago. And so it basically just claimed all of the islands around it, including Hokkaido and Okinawa, whereas Siam was on the mainland. And so you have all of these like fuzzy borders with other countries or people who claim the same area. And I put loose territory in quotation marks because I know Ajahn Ning will be here, and then he will argue with me about so loose territory in quotation marks. But the sort of the main point is that being on the mainland made it a little bit more difficult, right, to centralize power for this. Maybe Ajahn Ning disagrees, to figure out where our borders end, how much power we can pull into the center. And so and we also point out that, there were very different systems that were set up even before the Meiji Restoration and the reign of King Chulalongkorn, where Siam was already quite more centralized. Japan was more centralized than Siam. So the process of Sankin Kotai is like the regional lords had to travel back and forth, right, between their own provinces and the capital. And the traditional sort of Siam governance really limited the central government's reach in sort of further territories. And so the main difference that we're trying to point out here is that Siam took ages, right, to modernize, especially in terms of its administrative system. So like the creation of Monton took like 20-something years in order to complete. There were all of these local rebellions by local princes and leaders who did not want to submit to the power of the Bangkok government. And so there's sort of like this picture of wherever there's a fire, you have to put out the fire first. Whereas Japan actually abolished sort of the traditional administrative system really quickly. Within 3 years, they had the regional lords return their land and then reappointed governors who received salaries from Tokyo and expanded as well. So this big difference in the way that they centralized power had a lot of economic consequences, right? So first, we talk about fiscal capacity. The sooner and the more peacefully you are able to centralize power, the better you are equipped at squeezing tax out of the people under your control, right? And so Japan actually conducted all of these land surveys, re-implemented like a new tax system, and and even though their import duties were fixed due to the unequal treaties, they were still able to have some money, and they used that money to invest in infrastructure as well as to support industries that the government felt that were necessary, such as steel. And so the paper that we cited actually stated that the Japanese government was very instrumental in sort of developing like a steel industry in Japan. Whereas in Siam, we were not able to, the tax capacity of the government was not as high, and obviously because the limit on import duties, fiscal capacity was limited, and of course the government was scared to borrow money from abroad because they know that defaulting on loans could be a very good excuse for Western powers to say, actually, you have very poor financial management, and so we're going to colonize you. And so the Siamese government really struggled for this. And so as a result of that, Japan's economic growth has been described by a lot of economic historians as balanced growth, in which traditional and modern sectors were able to grow in parallel to one another and actually even exchanged sort of techniques and technology. And so in the papers that we cited, people talk about traditional Japanese garments using modern machinery as well as electricity to produce traditional Japanese fabrics. And so this didn't lead to deindustrialization. This didn't lead to the traditional sector losing out to the modern sector, but they grew in tandem, and so this sort of balanced growth really benefited Japan. Whereas the Siam's 19th century economy has actually been described as a dual economy, and we still feel that today with Bangkok being really bloated, being the center of economic and political power, and then everywhere else is just sort of the periphery to the core of Bangkok. And so this balanced growth really didn't happen in Siam and in Japan, like in Siam, like it did in Japan. Okay, I'm almost out of time. So, and obviously, another thing that was different in Japan and Siam was that Japan was able to actually create like a middle class, right? There was private capital accumulation, and these small merchant manufacturers took part in sort of what created this balanced growth, right? So these are people who had some small capital, belonged in the private sector, and invested in their own regions. They imported technology, they improved upon their production techniques, and you had private companies that were able to fund sort of their own business ventures. And some papers actually say that, there are times when the Japanese government was broke, but the sort of business community was able to continue the path of industrialization because there was private capital accumulation. Whereas in Siam, because of this dual economy and because there was a lack of a middle class really, there are no comparable sort of regional merchant manufacturers as we see in Japan, and so Ajahn Suehiro Akira has sort of described Thailand, the economy was growing, we were producing a lot more rice, but it was growth with no development, right, in Japan, in Siam as it happened in Japan. So so I'm just gonna conclude that this paper really wants to point out, right, that despite the seeming similarities between Siam and Japan, sort of at the mid 1800s, it actually experienced the threat of colonialism very differently, and because of its geographical differences as well as political differences, that this had a lot of implications for the economic development of both countries. And so That's it for me, I think. And I look forward to your questions at the end of everyone's...
Of the final presentations.
The final presentations. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonprat. Wonderful insights. All right, everybody from the colonial historical political lens, now we got the economic lens from Dr. Panarat to take a look at Thailand and Japan during the World War I. We shift our lens to the literary lens right now. Yes, Dr. Suthida knows that she's going to be the next to show us her articles in a way that she will be presenting to us George Orwell in Thai political landscape, the global text and the local reception. Let's see what we get to know from these literary narratives. For the audience out there online, if you have any questions, please let us know. You can write questions in the comment section below, and I'll be reading it out loud for the presenters. Okay, sure. And at the end of the final presentations, I will be allowing the presenters to deliver something in Thai again, just in a nutshell, to allow the Thai audience to understand their contents. I'll จะให้ผู้นำเสนอนะครับสามารถนำเสนอไอเดียคร่าวๆรวมไปถึง arguments นะครับในบทความเป็นภาษาไทยเพื่อให้ผู้รับชมทางบ้านหรือว่าที่นี่ก็ได้นะครับจะได้เข้าใจเนื้อหาสาระของหัวข้อที่ทุกท่านนำเสนอด้วยนะครับ Okay, seems like อาจารย์นุช is ready. Okay.
Sorry, I thought it was it would be like an informal talk, so I didn't prepare the slides for the presentation. So I will just show you the random pictures that some of the materials that I consulted at the beginning of my project. This is from one of the workshops that we had. These are the cover of the animal farm in, I think this one is from Middle East, and okay, this one is in Arabic, this one is in Thai, and this one is the translated version of 1984. This one is from the t-shirt, the merchandise, and I suppose everyone remembers that there was a political event that students and the activists read copies of 1984 in public. Okay. That's it. Okay, I will read from my script just to save everybody's time, and it will be super brief. So my chapter, as Ajahn Thong has said earlier, it is called George Orwell in the Thai political landscape, which belongs to the third part of the book, the new comparisons, right? It looks at how two of Orwell's most famous works, Animal Farm and 1984, have traveled into Thai society and become part of Thailand's political discourse from the Cold War period to the present day. And instead of focusing on Orwell's original meaning, I trace how these books were received, how they were translated, circulated, and used by different groups such as the governments, the publishers, the artists, as well as the activists. And take Animal Farm, for example. It was first translated in the 1950s. I think this one is the first translation, when Thailand was firmly allied with the US in the Cold War. From the paratext that I studied, in that period, the story was framed not as a critique of dictatorship, but a warning against rebellion or revolution. So it's a warning against people who challenge hierarchy or social order. It fit perfectly with the state's anti-communist ideology at that time. And fast forward several decades, after the 2014 coup d'etat, 1984, another novel by the same author became part of the resistance movement. And as I said, I assume everyone remembers that period. Then in 2019, our beloved Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha recommended Animal Farm as a good read. Do you remember? And many people laughed at him and mocked him, saying he clearly misunderstood it, and it was ironic that the military dictator would recommend the book by the 1984 author. But if we consider the novel's Cold War history, we will see that he might not be entirely wrong. At that moment, the Anakot Mai party was rising, and people, especially the younger generation, felt encouraged to challenge the regime. From Prayut's perspective and many other, authorities, this looked like a revolutionary threat. The very thing Animal Farm had once been used to warn against. And when I first started the project, I traced back to the history of the distribution and circulation of Animal Farm around the globe. So I think Animal Farm in the Thai version appeared in Thailand within this context as well. Okay. So instead of seeing this situation, I mean the recommendation of the book by Prayut, as just a misreading, I take it as a clue to how deeply Cold War thinking still shapes Thai political imagination until today. And also, for 1984, it had an equally fascinating afterlife. After the 2014 coup d'etat, as I have said earlier, Thai activists organized public readings of the novel and were even arrested for doing so, just briefly arrested. These are the pictures of the protest itself. And the terms Big Brother, thought crime, double thing that come from the book, as I assume everybody knows, become part of Thai political vocabulary. Artists and writers reworked it in exhibition, performances, and fiction. And I will show you the novel that was inspired by 1984 and mentioned 1984 in the text as well. And this one is the art exhibition based on the creator's short story, which is also inspired by 1984. So the Thai publisher of the only translation of the book even released an edition called Against Dictatorship, priced at 112 baht, a symbolic nod to the lèse majesté law. So both Animal Farm and 1984 have become what Deleuze and Guattari might call the little machines, the global texts that are plugged into other machines such as the war machine, the revolutionary machines in Thailand, and start to generate new meanings. They allow people to talk about power, censorship, and resistance, but also about hierarchy and both the good and the bad sides of the revolution. What I also find striking, and I didn't articulate this clearly in the chapter, but this is what I also want to point out, is that both sides of Thai politics read and use the two books selectively, turning the same books into tools for their own agenda. The military and conservative establishment cite Orwell to warn against chaos and revolution. The opposition cites Orwell to condemn dictatorship and propaganda. And yet, both of them kind of stray away from approaching the books as products of Cold War propaganda, written and circulated to fight against socialism and communism. that shows how, yet again, how Cold War frameworks still structure the way Thai society talks about politics, freedom, and legitimacy. So my argument isn't about who reads Orwell correctly. It's about what these readings do and how they continue to shape political discourse in Thailand. The fact that Animal Farm and 1984 can be used both to defend authority and to resist it shows how powerfully literature works once it enters new cultural circuits. Okay, that was my main argument, is it? Okay, lovely. I'm not quite sure anymore. It's been a long while. Okay, so I was told by Ajahn Gompanan as well to try to figure out what is new about my chapter. So I prepare for that as well. In terms of the approach, my chapter takes a slightly different path from what we usually see in Thai studies. But since I don't really consider myself Thai studies scholar, I'm from literary field, so everyone here could correct me if I'm wrong. Most research in our field focuses on textual analysis. So when we work in Thai studies, we usually read literature or other forms of narratives, especially in Thai, to reveal ideological assumption or to show how it reflects political conditions or struggles. But what I do instead is reception study. I don't start from what the text says, but from what people do with it. I look at the paratexts, such as the prefaces from the editors and translators, and also the covers, as you have seen, and also at public uses of literature, how books appear in protest, speeches, and creative works, which I think is one way to try to make visible the structure of feelings of people and keep track of public sentiments. And second, I focus on the global text, books that are not Thai in origin and not about Thailand at all. George Orwell had almost nothing to do with Thailand. If it was Burma, it would be a totally different case. Studying how these works are received locally lets us see Thailand as part of the global circulation of ideas. What I want to highlight is the way Thai readers and institutions have actively appropriated these global texts, making them speak to their local realities. When Thai protesters hold up 1984 in public, they are not simply borrowing a Western symbol. They are linking their struggle to a global narrative of resistance. When Thai translators or publishers frame Animal Farm in particular ways, they are shaping how the text fits into their political moment. So it might seem a bit ambitious, but I think looking at global text can actually be a new direction for Thai studies, especially in the literary field. It lets us see Thailand not as a passive receiver of global ideology, but as an active participant in global cultural production. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Assistant Professor Dr. Suthida Wimutikoson, currently teaching Anglophone literature at Thammasat University, and just exactly what she said, her focal point in terms of academic interests is all about literary receptions at the afterlife of the books as well. That could be part of the text that she used in this paper. All right, before we move on to the next contributors, who is the last one, my apologies, I would like to mention the profile of Dr. Panarat Anamwatana just a little bit because I forgot this to mention before her presentations. Dr. Pup Morakotwong is on the way right now. She's coming down. Oh, God, she's here? All right. Okay, just in time. All right. All right. Okay. So Dr. Panarat and Watana also is a faculty member of liberal arts as well in her work. Here, as you have in these publications about Japan and Thailand. All right, so Dr. Marukut-Wong, if you ready? Okay. It's going to be in English. All right, let me introduce her to y'all. Assistant Professor Dr. Marukut-Wong Pulab is an assistant professor here at the Faculty of Liberal Arts, Thammasat University. She obtained her PhD from the National University of Singapore in 2023. The scope of her work, or her research, encompasses cultural, socio-political, and diplomatic history in Southeast Asia, especially Vietnam and Thailand, from ancient times to the present. Her current research focuses on Cold War studies, particularly how high-level political players interacted with common people on the ground. Now, if you're ready, please, Professor.
Okay, thank you very much, Ajahn Thitithipong, and good afternoon, everyone here. I'm kind of a little bit, confused because I just finished my class now, right? And it just informed that I have to speak in English now today, right? Just now, and so okay. I'm trying to concentrate on my presentation today. Well, actually, I don't want to make it like the presentation. And to be frankly, this book is kind of, 2 years work or something like that, right? So to be frankly, I'm kind of forget on what I'm writing about. But well, anyway, yeah. So what I'm trying to work on my project is that, I'm trying to see mainly on the literature during the Cold War time, especially, the left, what they call the left wing and also the right wing. And especially I'm focusing on how these literatures, actually try to build the image or the perception about our neighboring countries. At the same time, this kind of literature is actually tell us about how the cultural, especially the cultural Cold War through the literature, is actually influenced to the mindset or the perception, about ourselves towards the neighboring countries, right? Especially in Indochina. But at the same time, what I think is that it's not just about how we see our neighboring countries. The important thing is that how we use the literature, to form or to support Thailand nation building, especially to anti-communism. Okay. By the way, on the other hand, what we can see from this kind of literature is also, talking about how is the left-wing literature is actually dream about the future or the society, the ideological society of Thailand that, okay, we have equality, using the neighboring countries as a case study to see that. Okay, so all this literature, I actually collected from 1950s to 1980s, something like that. So during the Cold War time, and mostly it's actually wrote about Vietnam, which separate into North Vietnam and also the South Vietnam, and also there are also various kind of the literature. It's kind of the documentary thing, and also the novels as well. Okay, so what I see is that for this project, I think that not so many people work on the literature during the Cold War time, especially a lot of people work on the literature during the Cold War time as a cultural Cold War, right? But the thing is that, particularly or focusing on Indochina or Vietnam, no one worked on this before. Someone might read about that, might analyze about that, but we never go further from the new, perspective, right? Seeing how this kind of literature is actually used to support the state ideology, especially Thailand. What we use is that we try to, produce this kind of literature. For example, we can actually see that during the Cold War time, the Thai state, especially since Sarit Thanom and Prapat, right? We saw a lot, the tons of literature writing about the Cold War, about the war, right? But those literature is actually, focusing on what's happening in our neighboring country, and mostly is about Vietnam. There are two or three main points in this group of literature, which which they call themselves as kind of the rightists or something like that. The first one is actually talking about the turbulence, okay, in South Vietnam, the failed state in South Vietnam. The second one, talking about what? Talking about the women, the role of the women, especially put everything evil to the women. You might know her in the name of Madame Yu. Madame Nu or Madame Yu. She is actually the first lady, the sister-in-law of the first president of South Vietnam, Ngo Dinh Diem. Okay, so the failed state in South Vietnam, many Thai writers is actually blame her that she is the cause of the collapse of the state. Okay, so it's kind of very patriarchy point of view or something like that. Okay, and the third one, shows that it suggests the Thai society should learn kind of the lesson learned that if Thailand don't want to be the failed state like South Vietnam, what we have to do. Okay, so that's why I think what we can see between the lines is that we can actually see how the state or how this group of literature try to shape the mindset of the people, especially the local people. We don't tell that, okay, the first one, if you are the Thai citizen, in order to anti-communist, you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. No. But what this kind of literature, group of literature try to say is that, oh yeah, we use our neighboring country as a lesson learned, okay, which I think it might be more impact because we can see from the example from our neighboring countries. Okay, so this kind of point of view, I think it is a little bit different. It might be new to see how the literature is actually can be the tools intentionally or intentionally or unintentionally, by the state. But it's actually have the deep impact to the perception of the local people, the Thai people, from that time until right now. Okay, and the second one, right? I did talk about, the left wing, especially written from the Thammasat University student at that time. For example, what I saw is from Thirayut Bunmi, Ajahn Thirayut Bunmi. He wrote about, the kind of idealistic society learning from North Vietnam. Okay, and not just only from Ajahn Thirayut Bunmi. This one, the second one from your left hand side, ตะวันดวงใหม่แห่งบูรพา by ทวีเกตะวันดี He actually wrote just kind of his diary. He traveled to Hanoi, and then what he saw is that he tried to say that Hanoi is very, equal, trying to promoting the rights of the human equally with the man or something like that. So this is actually kind of his idealistic society that he said that he hoped Thailand will be like North Vietnam in one day. So nothing criticized about North Vietnam, nothing criticized about what's happening, in kind of, how to what they punish with the anti-communist people, something like that. Okay, so that's why he actually told that this story as a ตะวันดวงใหม่แห่งบูรพา is mean the new sun of the east, right? So it's kind of the hope. I mean, for the left-wing literature, this kind of literature, what's happening in our neighboring country, especially in North Vietnam, is the future, is the idealistic, is the model for Thailand to be like Vietnam. So it's just only the positive thing. Not just only this one, right? But also there are a lot of translation work or translation literature from the left as well. Especially, I think the main role who try to, translate a lot of, left wing literature is อาจารย์สุชาติ สวัสดิ์ศรี right? I did talk to him, interview him as well, and then he said that he got a lot of books from North Vietnam, from here, Sanam Luang. And at that time, there are a lot of foreign books there, right? So there. So yeah, this is what I can see. And the last one that, how many minutes? Sorry, okay. Oh, 10 minutes, okay. Okay, so the last one, what I can see is that, I can see the dichotomies, the ideological dichotomies between this group of literatures, the intellectuals, right? I didn't talk a lot about, I did talk about, the right wing, right? But let me suggest about, okay, the book, okay, this one. The book for the right wing, okay, there are a lot. Most of the book, they are actually from the very well-known, writer like Kukrit Pramod, right? Especially this one, Songkram Vietnam. Even until right now, so many people still think and read Songkram Vietnam, like my student. When I ask them to read about Vietnam, they start from this work. And it is kind of, I think, I can say, right, this one is like very problematic, for literature in terms of the fact. Because, more or less, Kukrit Pramod is actually very influenced to the Thai society at that time, right? And he is, very influenced in terms to build the perception about our neighboring country, not just through the book or the literature here, but Songkram Vietnam by Kukrit Pramod is also broadcast in the radio channel as well. So it's like it goes spread, not just only the intellectuals or the reading society, right? But it's actually go through the normal people, the local people as well. So I think this one, for Kukrit Pramod, he also talked about, the political turbulence that, and also, corruption thing. All the bad thing is actually happened in South Vietnam, and Thailand should learn about that. Okay, so another thing, the other group of the intellectuals that I say it could be blame a lot about South Vietnam is that mostly they are the journalists. Okay, they are the journalists. The people like Talui, Saigon, Dan, Mikasanyi, or Suk Vietnam or something like that. All these people, they are journalists, and they went to they just followed the Thai troops in South Vietnam at that time. So what they wrote is that only based on their experience, right? So it is kind of the diary rather than kind of the analytical textbook or something like that. So the normal people at that time, when we read it, right, when we just say that, oh my God, when we talk about South Vietnam, it's kind of the dark age, right? There are a lot of dangerous things. So we should not, Thailand don't want to be like that, right? And then what we think more about that is that because South Vietnam, they actually allow a lot of the U.S. influence into South Vietnam. Thailand should not be like that. So it's kind of the lesson learned. But this is what happened, right? So it means that totally when we talk about, the right wing, they only, show the danger, the dark age, and also shows the failure, everything in, is actually collapse because only one lady or something like that, and also the corruption, okay? So, and what I would like to, show you more is that this one. I did talk about Tawiketa Bandi, right? About the new sun in the east, right? So this one, I think this quote is kind of very interesting. It is actually really, really in his dream, right? He talked about I would say, I'm not sure whether it is too much or not, it is too strong or not to say that. It's kind of very romanticized, the socialist society, okay? So romanticize is not in terms of the relations between Thailand and Vietnam, but what he romanticized is that he would like to have the society, the dream, right? The society as in his dream is like this, especially the equality, right? In terms of the gender equality and also the social status equality as well. So this is the thing, and I can actually see that From these two groups of literature published at the same time, right, we can see the ideological dichotomies that difference from based on their own experiences, right, and because what they actually perceive about. And I would say that, either the left or the right wing literature, one thing that we can actually see the effect is that I think, we actually use this group of literatures, what's happening in our neighboring countries, to somehow, showing our strong point or, praise our country that, oh, you see, our neighboring country is something like this, have the political turbulence, right? Not peaceful at all, unlike Thailand, that we have, right? Yeah, and that is make our nation strong. Right? So this is the thing, and I think it's kind of the strengthen, using through the literature, it strengthen, the state, the Thai state or the nation state as well. It's even make it more stronger. So this is what I can see from my project for this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Dr. Margaret Wong. Wow, such a wonderful narratives again. Thank you for giving us that literal lens, just like Ajahn Suthida. We have, the colonial historical political lens from Dr. Ted, and we have the economic lens from Dr. Gao, and we have literal lens from both of you. Thank you very much. Even though they're different from Anglo-Saxon Thai texts, and this could be considered the Indo-Chinese text. Now comes to the Q&A sessions. Very thrilled, very excited to have a question from all the participants here in the in the room, and both from and from the online sessions as well out there. Okay, we have a couple of questions here. Maybe Dr. Ying-kit, could you please answer the questions that we have available? Because it's all about the editorial work. Well, here I have the question number one. Thank you for the presentation. My question is, how might the insider or the outsider shape a researcher's perspective, axis, and biases in this particular field of Thai studies?
Right. Well, this kind of hurts because I always feel like an outsider who is welcomed by insiders. Going back to my own presentation, it kind of depends on how we see the issue of positionality. What kind of defines who an insider or outsider is, whether it's by culture, language, or nationality. But I think many of us, in fact, most, if not, almost all our contributors, they move across different boundaries, whether or not they are imagined or concrete. And going by the notion that that's promoted by Ajahn Thongchai, you have the concept of home scholars. And so most of us here, most of our contributors are Thai. They are definitely locally engaged, many of whom are based or trained abroad. And so in this very fluid world of fluid identities, our contributors and we move across different borders all the time. And so I think what is most important here, and why this issue of positionality is important, is so that we can be more reflexive and about how our background or training actually affect how we interpret the issues at hand. And I think the ultimately most important thing is how we can actually think and speak with Thai voices rather than I think it's more important to speak with Thai voices than to speak for them. So I think that's actually some of the more contemplative stance that our contributors and especially I myself have been trying to work out. Thank you.
I hope Dr. Chan answered the questions. If any of the contributors would like to share the opinions and ideas or thoughts, I have the second questions. I mean, let's see if we can answer this. Is it possible to be both insider and outsider at the same time when it comes to this field of study? What might be that positionality look like in Thai studies? Any one of you? I mean, you could be both the outsider and the insider studying, Thai studies out there and being Thai national here, speaking Thai, using Thai voice.
Well, I think my previous answer kind of has responded to this in part at least. But what I'm trying to say here is if we continue to hold on to certain fixed definitions and fixed boundaries about what inside and outside is, we would fall into this idea of exceptionalism and insularism for defining and studying Thailand in general. So I think that's one of the pitfalls that we have been trying to avoid as well. We are trying to say that Thailand has its own unique set of conditions and circumstances, but at the same time, we try not to actually exaggerate them at the expense of more nuanced interpretations. But I wonder if other contributors have anything else to say. Thanks.
Any one of you out there, the contributors, would like to share your thoughts and opinions? Ajahn, yes? Please.
I don't know. Oh, okay. So I'm on the screen too.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. Is it possible to be both on the inside and outside at the same time in Thai studies? I suppose. I don't know. I mean, I know that Ying-kit just said that we should sort of overlook sort of like these boundaries, but actually I kind of feel like because I did both my undergraduate and postgraduate degree abroad, so actually coming back, it was kind of like I have to relearn all of the quirks of sort of like Thai history, and so it was sort of like interesting that when I was abroad, I was seen as an insider. You speak Thai, you can access all the archives without having all of these letters introducing you to the archivists. But coming back, actually, it took some relearning or just learning, I think, for me to fully sort of like understand sort of Thai studies and Thai history, which I'm not saying that it's unique, but I guess every country's history has sort of like its own particulars, and so I don't know, I guess like having been positioned as both, I guess you can also be both, right? I guess in the inside and outside, depending on the context, where you are. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Nice. Okay, we have questions from
Yes,
Jeremy.
Thank you very much. So my name is Jeremy James. I'm the director of the French Research Institute on Contemporary Southeast Asia. So actually, I'd just like to say something from an outsider, apparently, but also from an insider, because I spent most of my life actually in Southeast Asia. So, and especially I start from Vietnamese studies and then to Cambodian studies and Brunei studies as well. So actually, what was very fascinating about everything you said, or the presentation this afternoon, is that it looks like, I'm not sure, but because I didn't read the book yet, it's that you kind of approach of insider is from the outside, in the sense that all the paper you presented today is like a mirror effect, a mirror effect, So just using the perspective or the actions or activities, etc., from of outside, so in Vietnam, Japan, for instance, France, you mentioned as well. So, but at the same time, to have to question the reflection, to question the comparative dimension. So, what the other? Why studying the other? It's also to answer who are the self, who are we. So that is very interesting. I saw that this afternoon, this interaction, which is quite original. Very genuine. I would say very interesting. We don't see that in all area studies. In Vietnamese studies, they don't need to study what's going on in Japan or in Malaysia, etc. You see what I mean? It's just they're focusing on their own production. But it's interesting to see that this, and I think you have developed, all of you, some comparative sense in terms of methodology, etc. That's maybe some different research field or area studies have not developed yet so far. So this is very interesting, to have to well balance always things, to see, and this is very fascinating. I see that during with all the presentation actually, using George Orwell production to understand what, but Thainess actually, and to question, to reflect the plurality of Thainess at the same time. It looks like this. It's just my outsider-insider perspective. Yes.
Thank you very much. Any comments?
Oh yeah, thank you, Jeremy, for the very kind comments. And quite uncannily, I realized that the 4 main presentations that we have actually kind of focus on comparative insights and analysis. And this is kind of unintended because we have like 12 contributors. And at least we have 1/3 here with us. And so Ajahn actually talks about Thailand and France, Siam and France. Ajahn Panara talks about Thailand and Japan. Ajahn Sutita talks about the reception and influence of animal farm in Thailand. And Ying talks about Thailand and Vietnam. And so I think that's one of the, I wish had I talked about this point, although I wrote the introduction last year, but I forgot. But I think the comparative insights are actually a very valuable contribution that we've had. I think that's actually very good to promote when we do subsequent book launches and events like this. Yes. And actually, I'm teaching a course. Oh, this is not in any way a promotion, by the way, because only my students can enroll in my course. But in any case, I've been teaching a course on women in Qing China. And so for one of my lectures, I talk about Orientalism. And so I was kind of inspired by Ajahn Sutita's presentation as I was listening about Animal Farm, because I actually used the examples of Anna and the King and I in the Orientalist British and American context. And so I don't know whether Ajahn Sutita has more to say about this, but no, don't worry, it's not a quiz. But it's okay if you have nothing to share, it's fine. But I'm just wondering, has there been studies on the reception and influence of Anna and the King and I, because I use those as examples of Orientalist impressions of Siam, of Thailand, even all the way to 1997. By the way, people of my era, of my generation, yell that you have watched Anna and the King by Chow Yun-fat, 1997. Yeah, so all the way to 1997. The movie is banned in Thailand, right?
It was banned.
Yeah, it was banned. So,
Even the actress.
Jodie Foster, right? So yeah, I think there's a whole story or backstory of it, which is so interesting. A whole book, I think, can be written on the reception of Anna and the King and the King and I. Don't worry. I mean, if you have, yeah, thanks.
Ajahn Sutita, any comments at all?
I do agree that reception studies has a long way to go in Thai studies, but I'm not aware of any reception studies of Anna and the King in Thailand. Maybe it's because it was banned, right? but we can do something about this. I mean,
censorship back then.
I mean, we can do the screening in Thammasat and collect or interview people. Probably. Are you interested?
It's a great idea. Why not? Any more questions? The question could be about any particular presentations that we delivered earlier. So please feel free to ask. I have no more questions online, so probably from here. All right, at the corner, Dr. Pira.
Can we briefly summarize our talks in Thai?
Please, beginning with maybe, yes, Dr. Suchita, you. Now that you're holding the microphone. Okay, Dr. Tep.
ครับผมก็จะพยายามรีมายให้มากที่สุดนะครับ งานมันนานจริงนานจนลืมไปแล้วว่าเขียนอะไรไปบ้างเมื่อคืนต้องมานั่งอ่านก็จริงๆหลักๆคือมันเกิดจากตอนที่ทำป.เอกอยู่นะครับแล้วก็เจอเอกสารชุดหนึ่งที่พูดถึงชื่อเอกสารจริงๆใครก็ไม่คิดว่าจะเป็นเรื่องนี้ครับมันพูดว่าการจัดการกองทัพกับของฝรั่งเศส something นี่แหละที่ไม่ใช่แบบ this topic เลยอะที่จะเป็นข้อมูลชุดเนี้ยก็คือเรื่องปกติของหอจดหมายเหตุประเทศไทยอะท็อปิกก็เนื้อหาคนละเรื่องกันเลยครับก็แต่ด้วยความอยากนั้นก็เลยเปิดดูแล้วก็มันก็เลยเป็นข้อมูลมาเป็นมหาศาลมากว่าแบบจริงๆกองทัพไทยเขามีแผนจริงๆในการป้องกันประเทศจากการลุกลานของฝรั่งเศสแบบคอนกรีตมากๆแบบชัดเจนมากๆว่าเขาจะต้องทำอะไรยังไงด้วยแล้วก็เมื่อบวกกับนโยบายการต่างประเทศกับนโยบายด้านความมั่นคงในเวลานั้นนะครับมันเลยทำให้พอเห็นเราจะเห็นภาพแผนใหญ่มาสเตอร์แผนของนโยบายก็คือเราจะป้องกันเราคิดว่าฝรั่งเศสจะบุกมีความเป็นไปได้ว่าฝรั่งเศสจะบุกเพราะฉะนั้นเราจะต้องทำอะไรบางอย่างในการป้องกันภัยจากฝรั่งเศสโอเคในด้านหนึ่งเรามีแผนการอย่างเป็นรูปธรรมในการรบกับฝรั่งเศสแต่อีกด้านหนึ่งมันมีความต้องจัดการให้กองทัพมันมีศักยภาพเพียงพอในการทำสงครามกับฝรั่งเศสได้ซึ่งหนึ่งในนั้นก็คืออย่างที่บอกคือการสร้างโรงงานผลิตอาวุธแต่อีกหลายๆอย่างเนี่ยก็คือหนึ่งมันมีจำนวนทหารนะครับที่จะต้องมีในประจำการและ Reserve Army เนี่ยตัวเลขมันอยู่ที่มันนานมากแล้วก็เลยจำตัวเลขจริงๆไม่ได้แต่สิ่งที่ตัวเลข anyway เท่าไหร่นั่นก็สำคัญแต่สิ่งที่สำคัญกว่าคือสิ่งที่เรา6ทำอะครับเสือป่ามันตอบโจทย์อันนี้เราไม่เคยไป consider ว่าด้วยความที่เราไม่เคยเห็นแผนเนี้ยเราก็เลยรู้สึกว่าเสือป่าเรา6อะในฐานะที่คนทำวิทยาพลป.โทเรา6แล้วก็คอมเพลนว่าเสือป่ามันฮอปปี้มากๆเลยอะเขาก็ขอโทษเรา6ด้วยกันนะที่นี้ก็คือ ที่ด่าไปเยอะมากในวิทยานิพนธ์ป.โทเพราะว่ายังไม่เคยเห็นเอกสารชิ้นนี้พอเอามาบวกกับสิ่งที่เรา6ต้องการทำนะครับก็คือเทรนนิ่งที่เป็นมิลิเชียแบบอย่างน้อยช่วยกองทัพได้อะตัวเลขเสือป่ามันมาตอบโจทย์กับตัวเลขแผนมาสเตอร์แผนอันนี้พอดีก็เลยเข้าใจแล้วว่าเสือป่าของเรา6มันมีเหตุและผลของมันอยู่มากกว่าที่เราด่าในวิทยานิพนธ์ป.โทก็ขอโทษมาแต่ที่นี้ทีนี้ก็มีแผนนี้ครับแล้วก็มีจำนวนตัวเลขอย่างเห็นได้ชัดว่ากองทัพโมเดิร์นไนซ์ตัวเองเพราะว่า มีแผนจริงๆในการป้องกันภัยคุกคามจากตะวันตกไม่ใช่แค่ต้องการที่จะป้องกันภัยคุกคามจากภายในเท่านั้นเพราะว่าสงครามที่เกิดขึ้นหลังจากโมเดิร์นไนท์ประเทศจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยไอเงี้ยวเมืองแพร่เคยดูไหมครับว่าใครเป็นผู้บัญชาการกองทัพไทยเจ้าพระยาสุรศักดิ์มนตรีซึ่งเป็น Old Traditional Military Training ครับแปลว่าไม่ใช่โมเดิร์นไนท์กองทัพที่ถูกส่งไปจัดการคือมันโมเดิร์นไนท์แหละแต่ผู้บัญชาการมันไม่ใช่โมเดิร์นไนท์คอมมานเดอร์แปลว่าการโมเดิร์นไนท์มันเตรียมไว้กับอีกอันนี้ด้วยเพราะฉะนั้นคือมัน10 ปีนะจะบอกว่า10 ปีหลังจาก10 ปีจากรศ112เจ้าไทยมันกลับมาแล้วแต่เขาเลือกที่จะไม่ส่งเจ้าไทยไปมันมีซัมติงบางอย่างที่จะบอกว่าทำไมไม่ส่งเจ้าไทยไปล่ะเพราะเขารู้สึกว่าเนี่ยมันไม่ใช่สงครามใหญ่พอที่จะต้องเอาชนชั้นนำที่เป็นลูกกษัตริย์ลงไปคอมมานด์โดยตรงมันแค่เอาแบบไอ้คนที่เทรนทหารแบบโอเทรดิชันแนลก็พอรับมือแล้วเพราะฉะนั้นมันมีนัยยะบางอย่างของการตัวคอมมานเดอร์ซึ่งไม่เคยมีคนไหนที่เป็นนักวิชาการเมนชั่นเลยว่าสงครามเงี้ยวเมืองแพร่มันส่งแค่เจ้าพระยาสุรศักดิ์ไปรบนะไม่ได้ส่งแบบกรมพระนครสวรรค์หรือนครชัยศรีไปรบเลยนะอะไรอย่างนี้อยู่ครับก็เป็นทั้งหมดในภาพรวมของงานที่ทำครับ
Well, thank you for the sum up. Okay. Now returns Dr. Panarat in Thai.
ค่ะก็เปเปอร์นี้นะคะก็คือเหมือนอ่านเจอบ่อยๆเนาะคนจะชอบเปรียบเทียบไทยกับญี่ปุ่นบอกว่ามีสถานการณ์คล้ายๆกันในช่วงศตวรรษที่19ใช่ไหมคะแล้วก็พอมาดูการพัฒนาเศรษฐกิจในภายหลังเนี่ยก็จะเห็นว่าญี่ปุ่นเนี่ยพัฒนาเศรษฐกิจตัวเองได้ดีมากเลยในขณะที่ประเทศไทยเราตอนนี้ก็ยังติดอยู่ใน middle income trap ใช่ไหมแบบไม่พ้นจากการเป็นประเทศรายได้กลางสักทีแล้วก็หลายๆคนเขาก็จะชอบยกคำอธิบายมาต่างๆนานานะคะแต่ว่าเปเปอร์เนี้ยเราก็อยากจะมาดูเป็นมุมมองเชิงเศรษฐกิจประวัติศาสตร์เศรษฐกิจการเมืองเนาะว่าในช่วงปลายศตวรรษที่19เนี่ยสถานการณ์และแรงกดดันต่อประเทศไทยเนี่ยจริงๆแล้วมันแตกต่างจากของญี่ปุ่นค่อนข้างมากนะคะแล้วก็ด้วยความยากลำบากในการรวมอำนาจเข้าสู่ศูนย์กลางเนี่ยมันทำให้ส่งผลต่อเนาะการพัฒนาเศรษฐกิจทั้งเรื่องความสามารถในการเก็บเงินใช้เงินของรัฐบาลและในการที่จะสามารถพัฒนาประเทศได้แบบว่าเท่ากันเป็น balance growth เป็นการเจริญเติบโตทางเศรษฐกิจที่สมดุลใช่ไหมคะระหว่างทั้งเมืองและในชนบทเหมือนกับในญี่ปุ่นค่ะก็เลยเป็น argument ประมาณนี้ค่ะยืมค่ะโอเคค่ะ
Okay, thank you. Next, please, Dr. Sutida.
ค่ะก็พอจะต้องพูดเองก็งงเองเหมือนกันเนาะต้องบอกงี้ดีกว่าว่าตัวเองสนใจเรื่อง reception อยู่แล้วนะคะแล้วซึ่งก็เป็นสิ่งที่ในฟิลของตัวเองอาจจะในฟิลของตัวเองก็จริงๆไม่ค่อยมีคนทำเยอะอยู่แล้วเนาะแล้วก็สิ่งที่ทำให้สนใจทำเรื่องนี้ขึ้นมาเนี่ยก็คือเกิดจากตอนที่ประยุทธ์แนะนำAnimal Farm นี่แหละค่ะแล้วก็เราก็เห็นว่ามันเหมือนกับเราสงสัยขึ้นมาว่าเฮ้ยคนเรามันจะอ่านอะไรที่มันตรงข้ามกันแบบ completely แบบนี้ได้จริงๆหรออะไรเงี้ยแล้วเราก็เลยลองพยายาม trace ไอ้ reception ของที่อื่นในอเมริกาด้วยอะไรด้วยแล้วเราก็เริ่มเห็นว่าไอ้สิ่งเนี้ยมันถูกอ่านอย่างนี้จริงๆคือหมายถึงว่าทั่วโลกอ่าน Orwell ต่างกันแบบแทบจะตรงกันข้ามกันจริงๆอะไรเงี้ยค่ะก็เลยเริ่มทำรีเสิร์ชอันนี้ขึ้นมานะคะแล้วก็สิ่งที่argue ใน paper ก็คือมี2ส่วนหลักๆที่อาจจะแบ่งไอตัว Animal Farm กับ 1984 ได้เนาะก็คือว่าไอ้ส่วนของ Animal Farm เนี่ยเราไปดูประวัติศาสตร์ของการแปลแล้วก็การพิมพ์ซ้ำของไอ้เวอร์ชันแปลเนี่ยเราก็ไปดูพวก paratext ทั้งหลายก็คือintroduction บ้าง preface ของบก.บ้างนักแปลบ้างอะไรอย่างเงี้ยเพื่อจะดู agenda ของเขาในการแปลแต่ละครั้งแล้วเราก็เอามาเชื่อมโยงกับไอเรียกอะไรอะบริบททางการเมืองในยุคปัจจุบันเพื่อจะแคร็กว่าจริงๆแล้วอะท้ายสุดแล้วอะมันไม่ใช่เรื่องของเนื้อหาแล้วมันเป็นเรื่องของ agenda ของการเมืองในแต่ละ period เนาะแล้วก็ส่วนของ 1984 เนี่ยมันจำเป็นน่าสนใจตรงในแง่ของการใช้ก็คือเราไปมองที่การใช้หนังสือไม่ใช่ตัวคอนเทนต์ของมันนะคะไอ้หนังสือเล่มนี้มันถูกใช้ในบริบทประเทศไทยอ่ะในหลาย aspect มากนะในทางพื้นที่การเมืองเนี่ยก็ชัดเจนอยู่แล้วแต่นอกจากนั้นแล้วมันไปอยู่ในพื้นที่ทางศิลปะด้วยไม่ใช่แค่การเอาไปรีไรต์ในงานเขียนที่เป็นพวกนวนิยายหรือเรื่องสั้นอย่างเงี้ยก็มีอยู่แล้วเนาะมีงานหลายชิ้นมากที่ตัวเอกชื่ออาจจะมีตัวเอกชื่อวินสตันสมิธอะไรเงี้ยหรือว่ามีการ refer ถึง 1984 อะไรเงี้ยรวมทั้ง article ต่างๆที่ออกมาในช่วงที่การเมืองมันร้อนแรงเนาะแล้วก็เลยไปถึงแบบกระทั่งซีรีส์วายอะไรอย่างเงี้ยก็จะต้องมีฉากที่มันมีอีเวนท์ที่เกี่ยวข้อง 1984 เงี้ยเราก็เลยคิดว่า 1984 ณตอนนี้มันกลายเป็นสิ่งที่ช่วยให้คนไทยที่อาจจะรู้สึกคับข้องใจในการเมืองของตัวเองเนี่ยมีวิธีในการ articulate ในการแสดงออกในแบบที่ creative ด้วยนะแต่ทั้งนี้ทั้งนั้นน่ะอย่างที่บอกไปตอนที่พูดก็คือว่าเราก็แอบสังเกตว่าในท้ายที่สุดนะทั้งฝ่ายเราจะเรียกว่าเป็นฝ่ายpro democracy กับฝ่ายที่ pro แบบ status quo เนี่ยเป็น conservative ในไทยเนี่ยat the end of the day อ่ะไม่เหมือนจะพยายามจะ avoid issue ของpropaganda against communism ทั้งคู่ในความหมายว่าแม้แต่ฝ่ายที่ pro เขาเรียกอะไรอ่ะมองงานของออเวลในฐานะงานที่ต่อต้านอำนาจ dictator เนี่ยก็จะไม่พูดถึงมิติของการที่งานของออเวลจริงๆแล้วมันเรียกอะไรมันเป็น propaganda ของยังไงดี against สังคมนิยมแล้วก็คอมมิวนิซึมซึ่งมันแสดงให้เห็นว่าทั้งสองฝ่ายต่างยังไม่กล้าที่จะทัชประเด็นนี้ไม่ว่าอยู่จะอยู่ฝ่ายซ้ายหรือฝ่ายขวาก็ตามในการเมืองไทยประมาณนี้ค่ะ
Very much. Last but not least, Dr. Margaret Wong, please.
โอเคค่ะจริงๆเดี๋ยวมีคอนทริบิวเตอร์คนอื่นจะพูดด้วยนะคะใช่คิดแล้วนะคะเราจับพอร์ตให้พูดนะเพราะว่าไหนๆหนังสือก็ออกมาแล้วแต่ว่าโดยส่วนตัวค่ะจริงๆสั้นๆง่ายๆเลยค่ะก็คือว่าอันนี้มันคือสิ่งที่ไม่ได้เขียนไว้ในทีสิทธิ์ป.เอกเพราะว่า NUS มันจำกัดคำไว้ที่ 80,000 คำนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ย อันนี้ก็คืองอกออกมานะคะเป็นสิ่งที่ตั้งใจจะเขียนเรื่อง cultural cold war จริงๆเลยนี่แหละนะคะแล้วก็ใช้แบบว่าliterature เพราะว่าจริงๆมันมีงานของอาจารย์คนหนึ่งอยู่ที่ภาควิชาของตัวเองชื่อฮาจิมุมาสุดะเนาะเขาเขียนเรื่องแบบว่าเกาหลีสงครามเกาหลีนะคะใช่ไหมแล้วก็คืออาจารย์เขาเป็นกรรมการนั่นแหละทีนี้เขาก็อยากให้มันมีเรื่องแบบว่าบนลงล่างล่างขึ้นบนแล้วก็มีอะไรที่มันเชื่อมระหว่างกลางเพราะฉะนั้นไอ้ตัวที่เชื่อมระหว่างกลางจริงมันก็คือตัวสื่อค่ะมีเดียเพราะฉะนั้นคือพูดตรงๆเลยคือว่ามันเอาสิ่งที่ไม่ได้เขียนในทีสิทธิ์มาทำนะคะส่วนหนึ่งเพราะฉะนั้นเวลาตอนที่อาจารย์ยิงกิจติดต่อไปเนาะเราก็ตอนแรกก็ไม่มีไอเดียว่าจะทำอะไรแต่รู้สึกว่าliterature เนี่ยมันสำคัญถึงขั้นในขั้นที่ว่าเรารู้สึกว่าแม้กระทั่งปัจจุบันเหมือนที่เรียนให้ทราบไปตอนที่พรีเซนต์ใช่ไหมคะว่าไอ้สงครามเวียดนามของคึกฤทธิ์มันยังทรงอิทธิพลมาจนถึงปัจจุบันนี้คือคนคิดอะไรไม่ออกเวลาเสิร์ชสงครามเวียดนามเล่มแรกๆที่มันขึ้นมาก็ยังเป็นคึกฤทธิ์อยู่เหมือนเดิมอะไรอย่างเงี้ยนะคะแล้วก็รู้สึกว่าไอ้ตัวคือที่จริงๆนี่พยายามแบบด้วยความที่เราออฟเรคคอร์ดเนาะก็พยายามจะหาอะไรที่มันเป็น new direction นะคะแล้วก็เราก็คิดว่า new direction มันไม่ใช่แค่การตีความวรรณกรรมว่ามันพูดอะไรอย่างเดียวแต่รู้สึกว่าไอ้ตัววรรณกรรมอย่างเคสเวียดนามเนี่ยมันชัดเจนมากว่ามันไปเสริมกับอุดมการณ์รัฐบางอย่างที่รัฐต้องการจะทำให้เห็นเป็นแบบนั้นคือรัฐโดยส่วนตัวนี่คิดว่า มันอาจจะมี impact มากกว่าการที่รัฐบอกว่าต้องทำ1 2 3 4 5ต้องเชื่อฉัน1 2 3 4 5แต่ว่ามันดันใช้วรรณกรรมเป็นตัวบอกว่าเห็นไหมถ้าคุณไม่ทำแบบนี้คุณจะเป็นอย่างเพื่อนบ้านนะตัวอย่างมีให้เห็นซึ่งรู้สึกว่าอันนี้มัน impact แล้วมันตอบโจทย์กับรัฐเนาะแต่ในขณะเดียวกันเนี่ยนะคะอีกอันนึงที่เอาเข้าจริงๆอาจจะไม่ประทับใจกับฝ่ายซ้ายไทยสักเท่าไหร่อะไรเงี้ยนะคะก็คือว่างานที่เราพูดถึงเรื่องฝ่ายซ้ายส่วนใหญ่ไม่ว่าจะเป็นวรรณกรรมอะไรเงี้ยเราก็จะพูดถึงขบวนการใช่ไหมคะในการต่อสู้อะไรเงี้ยแต่สิ่งที่เห็นจากงานฝ่ายซ้ายที่เขาคือเวลาจะพูดซ้ายขวานี่มันก็ลำบากใจเนาะว่าอันไหนจะซ้ายอันไหนจะขวาอะไรเงี้ยนะคะแต่ว่าดูแบบกว้างๆแบบหยาบๆเนี่ยก็จะเห็นอย่างงานอย่างของคุณทวีเกตวันดีหรือแม้กระทั่งงานของอาจารย์ธีรยุทธบุญมีก่อนหน้านั้นอะไรเงี้ยเนาะเราก็ไปดูอย่างอาจารย์ธีรยุทธบุญมีเนี่ยแกจะเขียนไม่ได้แกเขียนวรรณกรรมแบบที่เป็นนิยายอะไรเงี้ยนะแกเขียนออกเชิงอะคาเดมิกด้วยซ้ำแต่พอเราไปดูอะคาเดมิกในยุคนั้นเนาะพอเราไปดูปุ๊บเนี่ยเรารู้เลยว่าอ๋อมันไซส์ข้อมูลเฉพาะจากที่มาจากเวียดนามเหนือ only เพราะฉะนั้นคุณไม่มีทางที่จะบาลานซ์ได้เลยค่ะว่าข้อมูลมันจะเป็นยังไงมันก็เลยเกิดเหตุอารมณ์ประมาณว่าถ้าเรามองจากปีนี้เรารู้สึกว่าเป็นการโรแมนติไซส์พรรคคอมเวียดไม่มีคนเวียดอย่างนี้ใช่ไหมคะเดี๋ยวกลัวเข้าประเทศไม่ได้นะคะมันคือการโรแมนติไซส์พรรคคอมเวียดอะค่ะประมาณนั้นนะคะแต่ว่ามันไม่มีการมองอีกด้านหนึ่งเลยในขณะที่กรณีเวียดนามใต้เนี่ยเป็นเหมือนทางตรงข้ามเลยนะอีประเทศเวียดนามใต้มันไม่มีอะไรดีเลยใช่ไหมมีแต่อะไรที่มันจลาจลอยู่ตลอดเวลาคือเรารู้สึกว่ามันเป็นไบนารีมองขาวมองดำแต่ไม่ว่าจะเป็นขาวหรือดำจากลิเทเรเจอร์ฝั่งซ้ายหรือขวามันต่างตอบโจทย์อุดมการณ์ที่ตัวเองต้องการให้เป็นนะคะอย่างฝั่งซ้ายเนี่ยก็รู้สึกว่าอุดมสังคมในอุดมคติก็คือต้องเป็นเวียดนามเหนือแบบนี้ประมาณนั้นนะคะก็เลยรู้สึกว่านี่มันอาจจะเป็นการมองใหม่ว่าliterature มันใช้กรณีเพื่อนบ้านมา impact วิธีคิดมาตอบโจทย์ของรัฐยังไงด้วยเหมือนกันค่ะประมาณนี้ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you, Dr. Maragut Wong, and we have another contributor who would like to contribute to this presentation, but in Thai, อาจารย์ธนพงษ์ลือขจรชัย Okay, please.
โอเคก็ขอล้ำลึกก่อนไม่ได้เตรียมไปละเอียดเพราะเดี๋ยวพรุ่งนี้ต้องไปบุ๊กลันช์อีกเล่มนึง คือว่ากำลังเตรียมของมาก็ในเบื้องต้นทำงานนี้ก็จริงๆเป็นเหมือนฟีดแบ็กลูปจากการทำปโทปเอกที่เข้ามาอยู่ในไทยสตาดี้10 ปีแล้วเขาจะช็อกหลายๆอย่างก็คือผมมาจากสายกฎหมายแล้วก็เราก็เข้ามาเรียนด้วยแบรนด์นิวแล้วก็ไม่ได้อ่านหนังสือเป็นเรื่องเป็นราวปรากฏว่าเราเจอคำว่าประวัติศาสตร์กระแสหลักเมนสตรีมกับกระแสประวัติศาสตร์สายวิพากษ์แล้วเราก็เจอคำนี้แต่ปรากฏว่าจากฐานที่ไม่ได้เรียนประวัติศาสตร์เลยเราไม่เห็นว่าประวัติศาสตร์กระแสหลักมันจะหลักตรงไหนเพราะว่าหนังสือที่อ่านในมติชนทั้งหมดที่มันพิมพ์เนี่ยมันเป็นกระแสหลักสำหรับผมแล้วแต่หนังสือที่ในงานวิชาการในเรื่องเมนสตรีมเนี่ยงานกรมดำรงเอ็กซ์แลลี่มันไม่มีใครอ่านแล้วอ่ะ มันไม่มีใครอ่านแล้วทีนี้พอเราทำงานมาในเรื่องโดดลงไปในเรื่องเสียดินแดนไหลดินแดนที่ไหลเข้ามาเนี่ยพอจบกฎหมายสิ่งที่เราทำอย่างแรกคือไปอ่านสนธิสัญญาปรากฏว่าสนธิสัญญาเขียนค่อนข้างชัดไม่ใช่ทั้งเสียและไม่เสียมันเขียนชัดเจนมากทีนี้มันก็เลยกลับมาที่งานนี้ว่าแล้วมันเป็นไปได้ไงที่ประเทศไทยเราจะมีงานชุดหนึ่งที่ทุกคนเชื่อว่าเราเสียดินแดนกับงานอีกชุดหนึ่งที่เราเชื่อว่าทั้งหมดเราไม่เสียดินแดนแล้วสามารถอยู่ด้วยกันทั้งคู่มา20 ปีแบบดิสเพลตตรงข้ามแล้วต่างคนต่างไซส์งานตัวเองโดยไม่สนใจอีกฝ่ายหนึ่งแล้วต่างฝ่ายต่างก็ผลิตงานวิชาการของตัวเองไซส์งานตัวเองฝ่ายที่ผลิตงานวิชาการไม่เชื่อว่าเสียดินแดนก็ผลิตงานแล้วไซส์งานตัวเองไปได้ยังไงอันนี้คือจุดเริ่มต้นของงานปโทปเอกคิดว่ามันเป็นเหมือน dialectic แล้วเราพยายามจะทำงาน dialectic แบบ Hegel เราต้องการทำงาน synthesis ออกมาส่วนงานชิ้นนี้มันก็คืองาน backward กลับไปว่าแล้วมันเกิดอะไรขึ้นเราพยายามจะตอบว่ามันเกิดอะไรขึ้นที่ทำไมงานเรื่อง debate history ในไทยเนี่ยมันกระจายไป2 ทางแล้วต่างฝ่ายต่างไม่ไซกันเลยต่างฝ่ายต่างสร้างงานของตัวเองไปคนละเรื่องได้เลยและยังผลิตอย่างต่อเนื่องทั้ง2 ข้างเราพยายามหาจุดกลางแล้วก็ในงานก็พบว่าในหลายๆครั้งเนี่ยงานที่เรียกว่าเมนสตรีมเนี่ยงานอาจารย์ผู้ใหญ่บางท่านหรืองานแม้แต่กรมดำรงที่เรายังเรียกว่าเมนสตรีมเนี่ย จริงๆมันไม่ได้ดำรงอยู่ด้วยตัวมันเองอีกต่อไปหมายถึงว่ามันไม่ได้ถูกรีพรินท์เอามาขายไม่ได้ถูกเด็กมัธยมเอามาอ่านไม่ได้ถูกใครเอามาอ่านอีกแล้วแต่มันอยู่ในงานสาย critical นั่นแหละคนเดียวที่อ่านงานพวกนี้อยู่ก็คือนักวิชาการที่หยิบมันขึ้นมาด่าแต่ originally มันไม่มีใครอ่านแล้วทีนี้เราก็เลยถามว่าแล้วอยู่จะด่าอีกนานแค่ไหนทำไมไม่ไปทำงานอื่นต่อหรือมันไม่มีใครอ่านแล้วอยู่ก็ไปเขียนงานใหม่สิหรือพอด่าเสร็จแล้วด่าแล้วยังไงต่อส่วนใหญ่งาน National Thai ก็จะจบที่ว่า Thailand Thai National is construct then so what ก็งานนี้ก็คืองานพยายามจะ distract ว่าเราจะ move on ต่อไปยังไงประมาณนี้ครับ
Thank you very much for your comments. Talking about the grand narratives and the critical narratives of the Thai historiography. All right, I think it's time to come to an end and wrap this up. It's pretty much about time. I would like to express my sincere gratitude for every one of you who joined this session today. It was such a fruitful, productive, and very eye-opening moment for us, especially when it comes to the Thai historiography and Thai studies in different ways. As I mentioned earlier, we have been equipped with different lens right now, gender lens from the narratives of Indo-Chinese, Vietnamese text, from the Anglo-Saxons text and paratext of George Orwell, from the very, very insightful economic papers of Dr. Gout about Thailand and Japan in the World War I, for example, and of course from the colonial, political, and historical perspective of Dr. Tepes. I think now we are en route to the new horizons of Thai studies for real. And thank you for all the comments that we have from the participants in the class and our audience out there. It means a lot to us. It means the whole world for us to keep studying and being part of this field of studies. Ajahn Ying-kit, anything you want to say?
Yeah, so before we end, I would also like to thank all our contributors. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Including those who have joined us but left, but it's fine if you're watching this. And of course, we need to thank my brother, Ajahn. Without him, I wouldn't be here too. And of course, most of all, I think we have to thank Ajahn Kompanat Tangkangkan.
Round of applause.
P-Nan. Without her, Ajahn Preeti and I would never have edited the volume, never have visited Thammasat, never have known everyone here. So she's really the biggest name that you should remember. Not mine, not even Ajahn Preeti's, perhaps. It's thanks to P-Nan.
Yeah.
จริงๆ we dedicated this book to her, by the way. Really.
Yes. Without everyone's participation and contribution, this would be possible. Thank you. Okay.